welcome to Breaking the Chain. I'm Jacob.
And I'm Cody. And on today's episode, our very first episode, we're going to be talking about first, why are we making this podcast? Then we'll give introductions about who we are and why you should listen to us. Then we'll talk about the Hunted set, calling Memphis, and the RTN season. So, Jacob, why are we making this podcast?
Well, it's over like the last month. I've been like pulling random people from my life. Like I've been going up to like I was telling you earlier, like coworkers or just like other people at Flesh and Blood events, and I was just like going on and on and on and feeling like I was like kidnapping them in a way. So it was just something where I like realized that I'm like, it doesn't really matter like how many views I get or like kind of the outlet. I just wanted to be able to like voice my opinion to people, but I definitely like came to you because you asked me a while ago if I wanted to do a podcast, and at the time I didn't. But why did you want to do it?
First for the same reason. I don't want to hold people hostage. But for the second reason is I kind of just want to take a different approach at the game. I've been playing it competitively for a few years now. I don't even know how long it's been, honestly. And I've always just kind of had this competitive mindset about it, and feel like I've been missing out on the more like all the other approaches you can have. I know there's a ton of different angles whether there's casual, cosplay, just different approaches to the game, and I just want to make sure I'm getting the full experience that I feel like I've been missing out on so far. So with that being said, go ahead and introduce yourself, Jacob.
Okay. So start off, I guess we could start with like card games. I actually didn't really play many card games or even like online card games or anything really TCG. I collected Pokemon like throughout my childhood, and of course, like anyone, like kitchen table play it where you don't actually know the rules of Pokemon. You just kind of make a deck and play it through. So I did that with my cousin forever, and we, like, that's how we kind of like got closer. And it was actually him one day, like tried getting me into like Magic, and his uncle tried getting me Magic, and I've had him try and get me in so many other card games and so many other things. But it just like never clicked. So, but like one day, I think it was around Monarch release, he's just like, "Hey, there's this new card game I want to try. Are you willing to like sit down and try it with me?" I'm like, it's just gonna be another one of those games. Like it's gonna be Magic the Gathering, but it doesn't hurt to just like give him a chance, just try with him, play a little bit with him. So we sit down, we get Arcane Rising. We do a sealed out of Arcane Rising. Which is known for fantastic sealed, I already know. But I make a sealed Azalea deck. He makes a sealed Kano deck, and we like sit down and we start playing. And like, it was like, okay, whatever. Okay, I'm starting to understand the rules. But after like a game or two, I was like, this is so cool. It feels like I'm loading in like an arrow in a card form. It's not like I'm just reading a card, playing an effect. It's like, it feels like I'm actually a ranger somehow shooting an arrow, and he's throwing spells at me. And like, after that first game, we like talked for hours about how just the game felt, and like, it was so cool because like this turn, it felt like I did this, and then you did this. So it was just like, that's how it all started. So then like, we played casually at home for a little bit, and then we went to an armory after like a month of casually playing, and I'm like, not only is this game like super cool, but like the community was super welcoming. Everyone was it was just so fun and so nice, and like so refreshing to be a part of a community that was just willing to help me like step into the game, even so early into it when we only had like one armory in Colorado, or at least in Denver. So it's like going every Thursday.
Was it really like one armory in the Denver area back then? At
least when I started.
Wait, where was it? Was it Mythic?
No, it was actually Dueling Lands.
Dueling Land was the first one. Wow.
Maybe not the first one, but I think it was like the closest one to my house.
Sure.
And it was like still like 45 minutes away, but I'm like, I'm gonna like try, and like I met all these people, and they were just so cool and so fun. I'm like, this is just like a fun social outlet, which I hadn't had for a long time. So we do all this. I'm like, okay, this is like a fun side thing, but like I wasn't like invested in the game, that like crazily invested in the game. Like I had like a CC deck, but it was like I started with like Bolton, but it was just like a few Majestics and a bunch of other random commons all thrown in there. I'm like, oh, whatever works. But then my cousin's like, hey, let's go to the Tale of Aria like pre-release, and I was like, well, like I'm not that invested in the game, but I haven't been on a vacation like honestly in like 2 years at that point. So I'm like, you know what? I'll just go with you, whatever.
Oh, you
And
mean the
again,
world
like,
premiere?
yeah, inside
Oh,
the world premiere, and I'm like, I'll go with you, whatever. It'll be interesting. I've never done something like that. We sat down, we do the world premiere on that Friday, and I'm like that's when I just fell in love with the game. I'm like, this is it. I'm like, I think this, like, I got hooked,
yeah.
and kind of been stuck here ever since.
That's nice.
But how do you get like? I was gonna say, how do you get introduced to the game?
I got actually introduced to the game. I'm trying to remember exactly how I initially found it, but I found a Facebook page or a Discord or something, and someone ended up teaching me the game over Tabletop Simulator, and it was back in Monarch, and they just had me making sealed pools, and we were just playing sealed decks against each other, and I thought the game was cool, but when you don't have the cards in your own hands, it's as cool. It's not as fun, right? Like, the game's meant to be played in the flesh and blood, right? So I didn't really play it for a while after that. I think it was about a year after is when I tried the game again, because I used to play Legends of Runeterra, which was an online card game, and then they started cutting the competitive back, and a lot of people were leaving, and one of the top players was telling everybody how good Flesh and Blood was, and so I figured I'd give it another try, and I found the store locator, found Mythic Games, which is the closest one to me at the time, and it actually still is, and went over. I didn't even have a deck. Hadn't even opened a single pack of the product yet, but I went over there and I was just planning to watch some games and just literally see how people were playing it. And I walk in and you were there. It was you, I think Shane, Rory, and some other people. It was like maybe 6 to 8
I think
people.
Jake was there at the time too.
Jake might have been there. But yeah, I know you were there because you actually lent me a deck. You insisted that I played with your Bolton deck. And I was like, are you sure? Like, I don't want to borrow your whole deck. I know it's expensive. And you're like, yeah, here you go. Just take this and play. We want to have another player. Like, we're happy to have you. And so I got to play on my first armory because of that. And I had a blast. The game was just so much fun. I probably broke the rules like 10 times during that armory that I now know of, but I didn't know at the time. But it was really funny, and I was hooked. And that was, I think, right after Everfest came out, if I remember correctly, because I think Starvo was a thing. Nobody was really playing Starvo at armories, but I knew he was out there. So that's when I really started getting into the game, and I've been loving it ever since. But I was hooked from the first armory, but I think when I decided to make it, like, I guess my primary game, or a large part of my life, I should say, at this point, was again a world premiere. It was the Uprising world premiere, and that was in Vegas. I went out. I found a team through, I think it was the Colorado Discord or maybe one of the Facebook pages or something, because I made a team with some players in Colorado Springs. By the way, we're both in Denver. I don't know if we mentioned that yet, but we're both in the Denver area, and I made a team with some players in the Colorado Springs area because they had Team Blitz going on at that event. And those team events, I think, are my favorite events of all time, whether it's Team Blitz, Team Sealed. I don't know if they've had a Team CC yet. I think they have a calling coming up. Not to get sidetracked, but yeah. A huge blast. I was sold in the game from then on. I also found my main hero, Dromai, who's sadly LL'd, and I've been pretty homeless ever since. But I played Dromai for a long time. Finally found my niche hero that I could really relate to and have a fun time with, and approach the game from that way. But I did want to make a quick note. One of the things that sold me on the game too was also the Ranger feel. Like, it really does. I don't know what it is about the Ranger class, but it really does feel like you're loading an arrow and firing it out of your bow, like whenever you're firing and attacking with those arrows. There is something about playing a Ranger that just feels different from like an actual physical play perspective. Yeah, and then now we've We've both been playing for how long? How long has that been now? If you were playing since
Like
Arcane,
end of Monarch, I
yeah.
think was like.
What year would it
Oh,
have been though? I don't know, because
that's crazy.
I
Probably
think it was like
was it
2021 for
2020? I was
me.
gonna say.
Well, no, for me, I think for Everfest, right? That might be
Oh
2021,
no.
right? Maybe it's 2022. At least 3 years for me, and so that means at least 4 years for you. So
It's been
that's a
forever.
long time, yeah.
I can definitely like see if I can find my first armory. Now I'm kind of interested.
Oh yeah, is there like a little arrow to go all the way back to the very first one?
Yeah, I think so. I don't
Oh,
have to
if
sign
you
in.
do,
Maybe.
I would be curious to see. Um,
Yeah, it's probably like 2021, probably like early
Somewhere around
2021
there.
or something. I don't remember, but
Yeah, I
it's been
think
a long time.
that's probably that might be. I don't know how long I played Yu-Gi-Oh for back in the day, because I also had an upbringing with card games and with my brothers. I have two brothers that we all three played almost every card game there is. We played Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, Magic, Digimon. Whatever the games that were out there at the time that were like small ones. We played them all. We made our own card games all the time that we tried to play with each other, like everything under the sun. So been a pretty avid card gamer my whole life. And yeah, that's me. So unless you have anything else you want to say about yourself, we could jump into the new set.
I guess one last thing I could add is I didn't say anything about like who I mained. I said I started on
Oh
Bolton,
right,
but
yeah.
I just thought it'd be like, oh, it's weird. They're like, oh, you must be a warrior player. But no, it was
He's
after
not.
the
He's not a warrior player.
no. So after the Tales of Aria, I'm forgetting the word.
Oh,
Like-
world premiere.
World premiere, thank you. After Tales of Aria world premiere, I got a tectonic plating piece. I traded a rainbow foil CNC
Oh,
for a tectonic plating, which sounds awful. But like I still think it was like one of my like favorite trades ever, just because in like the time it like helped me dive into the class I ended up falling in love with.
Mhm.
That was a Bravo main for like 3 years. And it wasn't until like this last year I felt a little lost because like Bravo has been really, really bad. But the like in November Jarl came out and I like never fallen in love with a hero as much as I have like Jarl. And I loved Bravo before. So it's
Yeah, maybe one day I'll fall in love again.
Crazy.
You know? Dromai 2, where are you, please?
gotta be the next armory deck, right?
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, speaking of Draconic Heroes, we have our newest set that came out, 2 weeks ago now? The Hunted?
Well, it was last Friday when as of was it last Friday?
I think it was only a week ago,
Yeah.
yeah.
It was last Friday as of recording.
Memphis was the weekend it came out, which was last weekend. So not even a week yet, actually. But yeah, our newest
That's
set.
crazy.
What are your thoughts on the set? Do you like it? Do you dislike it? Do you have any heroes you want to play from it?
I went to a couple pre-releases. What's cool about Denver is there's like pre-releases everywhere.
Oh yeah.
So, like, I went to a few pre-releases, and we're not trying to be like super competitive at a pre-release. Like, the sealed format was like the most fun I've had in a sealed format ever. It was awesome, and I got to try out mostly Arachne just because like in 2 of my 3 pre-releases I went to, I had a total of like between both Syndra and Fang, I had a total of like 4, I think, Draconic Warrior cards and like 4 Draconic Ninja cards in both sealeds 2 days. I'm like, well, I'm going Arachne. But anyways, I sat down and it was just so much fun to play. Like between Arachne, changing heroes and planning ahead and like learning like, oh man, like I'm not base Arachne. I can't just get the +1 and go again. And it's like, okay, this card's better when I'm this Arachne, and this card's better when I'm this Arachne. But then on my last pre-release, I played Syndra. And I was like, okay, it's another Draconic Ninja. Let's just play the cards. But then, like, I put this deck together, and we sit down, and I have Danger Digits, too. So, like, that definitely made it, like, feel a lot cooler and better because you could, like, do some cool plays off that. But, like, I sit down to do this, and I'm like, oh my goodness, this ninja's fun too. Like I'm doing all these weird, cool tricks to like break my daggers, and like all of a sudden, like it felt like sequencing meant so much. And there's also like not immediately like a dominant hero. And I know like I've heard some things about like Fang being dominant, but like I know at least the one when I went Syndra, it was me and another Syndra player who were like the undefeated at the end. Right, I ended up losing the last match, but still, like it's like it definitely feels like super even, and it was just a ton of fun.
Yeah, I really wish I had made it out to one pre-release. I was planning on going to the Mythic one, but it snowed that morning, and I just didn't really feel like unshoveling my car to get there.
That's fair.
But yeah, no, I've heard really good things about the pre-release, even outside of your experiences. I really like the 8-pack format that they introduced with Mistveil, I believe. I think it makes it a lot less of, okay, which hero sucks the worst, and more of which hero actually it has the best cards, which definitely feels a bit better. You definitely have more options. You can also play any hero you want. It might not be as good as the best hero for your pod, but 8 packs makes it a lot more playable for any of the 3 heroes if you wanted to just play one because you find it more fun, which I thought was really nice. Yeah, no,
yeah, go ahead. Sorry. I was gonna say that, and the 30 card limit.
Yes.
Or 30 card decks has done amazing things for even like draft and sealed.
I agree 100%, because if you've been playing the game for a while, you remember Outsiders, Sealed, and Draft, and that's where that was the catalyst to the 30 card maximum.
And Bright Lights.
Oh, that's right. Bright Lights wasn't a 30 card maximum yet, was it?
Yeah. Neither was Heavy Hitters, and part of like the meta and like drafting heavy hit. No, it wasn't. So like part of the meta was just like if you can get 37 like cards in your deck, you had a huge advantage. Or like 37 cards. I think that was like the max you could get. But it's like the more cards you could get over your opponent gave you a huge advantage in Heavy Hitters, because a lot of matches went to fatigue.
But yeah. I remember if you were playing Outsiders, Azuri was just fat deck, and then if you were playing Bright Lights, Teklo, you just fat decked it. And then I assume it was just a Guardian in Heavy Hitters that you would do that for. Maybe KO as well?
I think it was actually the Warriors, because they had the reactions blocked 3. So the Warriors would fat deck. Oh, the Guardians had a lot of 2 blocks. I don't know why they were 2 blocks, even those auras.
Yeah, they lost their 3 block dominance in that set, I suppose.
It was very sad as a Guardian player, but
back to Hunted.
Back to the point.
I considered playing Fang for a while, and I'm still on the edge of whether or not I buy a case or 2 and actually try to build it. I haven't decided yet, but he looks like a lot of fun. I've been seeing a lot of different lists floating around that look nice. I don't know that anybody's figured him out yet. It seems like Syndra has been figured out. People are running a lot more redline version of that. Arachne might have been figured out. We saw Brian Lorenz do really well with it at the Calling Memphis. But I don't know if Fang's been figured out yet. There's been... I feel like he's also leaning redline, kind of like Syndra, but we haven't seen anything perform too well. But regardless, all of them seem very playable heroes for a set.
I've heard some chatter about a like redline Fang list. But yeah, it's interesting because like as like not maining any of the like types of those heroes, like I want to try and build all of them, but at the same time I don't want to put Jarl down, like
yeah, it's like this cool thing is nice, but I already have this cool thing. And I don't want to leave this cool thing.
But like I can't play Jarl at the Armory if I go and like build a Syndra deck or like an Arachne deck.
Like if you build the new deck, then you have to play at the Armory, and you can't put Jarl away, and like this is not a thing you're allowed to do.
It's just so hard.
No, yeah, I definitely get that. What do you think about the new foiling in the EAs? It's extended art section, I should say.
I'm so happy with the extended arts. I think they're so cool that they shrink the text box, and it's been something like a light topic I've talked about with people, but like nothing I've been like too invested in, because like we didn't really see much of it before. Like you saw it on Stalagmite.
I saw it on. Well, actually, Stalagmite was Arya.
No, is it Bastion of Eisenloft? Sorry, not
Oh,
Stalag,
so yeah,
right?
yeah, Steinmeier doesn't have it, but yeah, Bastion of Weisenloff from
Everfest.
Is it Everfest? Okay,
Yeah.
Everfest. Yeah, and then we saw like they started doing it a little bit more with like Traverse the Universe and Part the
Mhm.
Mistveil. I think we had a couple cards and not heavy hitters. Rosetta that had the um,
Yeah.
extended
I mean, a
arts in
lot of
it.
it was equipment.
Exactly. It was a lot of like the legendaries mostly.
Mhm.
But now they've been extending it to the majestics and even the rares and commons, especially with the gem packs. But I just love the look of the extended. What's the right word for it again? When the extended art is the smaller text box. Is there? I think there's an actual term for it.
I don't know the term. I just call it like an extended
Yeah,
art.
true
It's
extended art. I guess
yeah.
we could say.
It's not
But
like a text box that's like opaque in a way.
exactly, because yeah, we've had in the past where the cold foil equipments have had the semi-opaque text box, right? So you could kind of see the art behind it, but you weren't really getting the whole art. But now we have these true extended arts, if you will, that you get to see much more of the art, which is obviously gorgeous
Mhm.
every time. But yeah, it's been great, and I like that they're extending it into the other rarities of the cards, and you can maybe one day we'll have a deck. Actually, maybe it's today. Maybe you can even already make a deck that's just all full full arts. Maybe full arts is what it's called. No, no, that's not.
Hmm.
That can't be right. Anyway,
Yeah,
yeah, they look great.
they look amazing. It's so cool.
And speaking of those, the gem packs I think are also a really good move. Uh, we had our armory yesterday I don't know if that was your first gem pack armory.
That was mine too.
Yeah, that was also my first gem pack armory, and I thought it was so amazing. Like we all just as a participation prize got a gem pack, and someone got to open the cold foil Chelicera, I believe it's pronounced, the
Yeah,
new dagger,
that's like
the token
crafting
dagger,
Chelicera.
something like that. Yeah, um, and even though I didn't open anything like particularly amazing, I still liked having these really cool extended art cards. And it's not like it's any worse than getting the promo card that we were getting in the first place, where it was a foil yellow Fruits of the Forest that only I guess Verdansk uses.
Yeah.
But you basically just get that and more with these gem packs, and I think it's a great way to award participation instead of performance
Mhm.
at these armory events. Um,
Another thing that I haven't like really seen anyone talk about is like it was so cool like when we open it and like oh like I don't play Draconic Heroes or whatever, but like the guy in front of me played the Draconic Hero and like oh he had a card that I was looking for, and then
mhm.
I had the card he was, and like all of a sudden you're like trading with everyone else, like it's a trading card game. It was
Yep.
so it's like cool. You open the gem pack and it's like, oh, that's the card I'm looking for. Oh, that's the card I'm looking for. And even like you just like trading these commons around and like everyone's sleeving it up, throwing them in their deck when they can.
Mhm.
And so it's just like super cool to have that moment of like everyone opening their gem pack and then like moving or like trading them around with each other to like sleeve them up in the decks they're playing.
Yeah, and it's really like taking advantage of how good the community is in Flesh and Blood, because I play some other card games too on the side every once in a while, and let me just say the Flesh and Blood community is the best one of them all by a large margin. And so just yeah, having that great community, just be able to trade out these cards and just help other people make their deck look cool and have more fun with the game is a really cool additional benefit of these gem packs. Um, yeah. Oh, and I forgot that there's the Marvel Azuri in there and the pink Razor Reflex in there as like the chase cards. I don't know how rare the pink Razor Reflex is. It might actually be pretty common. I don't think anybody pulled it last night, but
Right.
I don't know. Do we know the rarity of the Marvel and like the cold foils yet? Is that something that's known as far as you know?
I feel like I've seen the rarity on like the Marvel, but I haven't seen any rarities on anything else.
Yeah,
I have no idea on any of that. I do
it is
think the
cool.
Tank Razor is a cool throwback though. Like,
Yes. Yeah, and it was interesting. I didn't realize that non-foil Razor Reflex was the only non-pink strip red card, I believe, in Welcome to Wraith Alpha. I think that's what I heard. I might be misremembering what I read on that, but
oh,
that's
I think I
why
saw
they
Snoop.
printed it in non-foil, because or or vice versa. Whatever it comes in the gem pack, it did not come in pink strip in the Welcome to Wraith Alpha. And so that's why they printed it that way and not the foil or non-foil, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because I actually watched like a Snoop Dogg video. He was talking about all this, and I think he was talking because it had like an alternate art version. It went through a different printing process, and the pink strip was actually an air. So it went through the correct printing process because there was all these different ways. Like it had 2 alternate arts. So that's why, yeah, which is like really interesting. So it's kind of cool to see like a pink strip version.
Right, a nice homage to homage, however you pronounce that word,
I think it's homage.
To the very first set of the game. It is also interesting that they're putting a Marvel hero in these packs too. That's a pretty cool precedent that I expect to maintain throughout all the gem packs, which if I remember correctly, we're getting 1 per set. So like we have a hunted gem pack, and then we'll have a next set gem pack, and so on and so forth.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see how they move forward with which heroes they pick to make Marvels out of. I'm hoping for. I actually saw there's a guy, a local. He has a YouTube channel called Anarchy Please, and he plays Dash.io. And he showed me a picture of a Dash.io Marvel, and we were both like going wild over it because I love Dash.io as well. And we thought that there might have been a second secret Marvel in these packs, but either it's a fake or maybe it's like a leak of the next gem pack. But we'll see. Hopefully a Marvel Dash.io is coming up soon, is basically what I'm trying to get at.
I'm excited for a Marvel Jarl, but also sad for my wallet when that comes out.
Right. It is nice that they're luxuries that you don't have to have, right? But they look gorgeous if you do go for them.
A little flex, like in the community, walking up to the armory, you feel so cool. You flip over your Marvel and you're like, look at this.
Yep. And what's nice too is that depending on the hero you play, you're gonna be able to play with that pretty card for a while. Like Zen Marvel, not very long. But Jarl Marvel, you might be able to play for it for a long time.
Okay, wait until Enigma's gone, and then he'll start doing a lot better. And Viscerai. Maybe Aurora. But
just every good hero has to go away, and then Jarl might have a chance.
I've been killing it on Jarl, by the way. I have, like, in the last month and a half, lost 1 game at an armory.
Wow.
That was yesterday.
I was about to say. No, he seems really cool. I was surprised to see that Michael Hamilton actually brought him to Memphis. I don't know if you saw that.
I was super surprised about that.
Apparently he was on, I didn't see what list it was, but it was apparently an Earth list, and he was running Rotwood Hammer. Did I hear correctly?
Yeah, it was like a super Earth heavy, like, decomposed list, which I think it was, like, inspired from the idea of, like, the Starvo list, probably. Like, I would assume it's inspired by the Starvo list, but the Earth Hammers to get more, like, 4 in there, or, like, 4 hammer.
Right, because Titan's Fist requires a 3-cost or greater, and so if you run a deck that doesn't run very many of those, like maybe you run a lot of 2 costs, then it makes sense to run Rotwood Hammer, I think is what it's called.
Yeah, that's why it's like so awkward to run Titan's Fist and Jarl, because you have so many things that are actually like really cheap, which is like odd for a Guardian. So that's why it's like, okay. And I like immediately when I saw the Rotwood Hammer, I'm like, oh, he's like a heavy Earth build. Like his whole idea is he's trying to get the value out of his deck,
right?
Which is like super cool and interesting in its own way.
Yeah, and if anyone can make a more competitive meta deck of Jarl, then it's Michael Hamilton. Can figure it out.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, he did not do too well with it. We'll see if it comes back or not. But I do think that Jarl will have a place in the meta at some point. Maybe just not today.
Yeah, I think he's going to be... I haven't played too many matches in the Draconic Heroes, but like there's been a couple games where I play in the Draconic Heroes, and I'm like, this is such a good matchup. Like I played into Fang, and you give them 1 Frostbite sometimes, then you're just like...
Yep. I mean, same with Syndra,
well...
right? One Frostbite to Syndra is just a whole card they have to pitch.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they have what, 6 blues in the deck now. So yeah, you definitely have some good matchups with Jarl. You also have some bad ones, but you have some really good ones too. But yeah,
have you drafted this? I was gonna say, have you drafted this?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I've actually been drafting a lot. I'm going to the draft RTN on Saturday actually. Driving 2.5 hours to Wyoming for the only draft RTN in our area. I think we have
That's fair.
3 Denver area RTNs. Is it 3 or 2? We have like 2 or 3 Denver area RTNs. We have the one in Wyoming that I'm going to, and we have I think 2 in Colorado Springs. And the only draft RTN out of all of them is the one in Wyoming. And I really like draft. I started out not caring for it too much, and I think that might have been due to kind of I don't think that the early Flesh and Blood drafts were all that great. Maybe a hot take, but I don't think they were all that great.
I don't think it's that hot.
I don't think it's a very hot take either, but it potentially is. Regardless, the most recent draft sets have been so good. I think that they've been knocking it out of the park. The dual class cards and just the way that they've been handling generics and stuff just allow you to be really a lot more flexible and less punished for being flexible. And the 30 card limit also helps a lot with that too, because you don't have to like hard force a hero and just hope that the person people around you either notice you're picking or aren't picking the same hero as you, because you needed all the cards for your deck to fat deck it. So I think the draft has just gotten a lot better, and there's so many factors to it that allow for a really high skill ceiling. And I think it's just fun. It's just fun to open up a pack and see a bomb card that just says, okay, I guess I'm playing Fang this draft, or okay, I guess I'm playing Arachne now. It's a lot of fun. It's a very well balanced format, if you ask me, and I think I almost like it better than CC. That might be the hot take.
Really?
That might be the hot take, really.
I was gonna say, especially here in Denver, I feel like that's the hottest take.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, like, saying that old drafts, like, oh, they weren't that good. I'm like, that feels like just as hot as like going outside and touching like a sidewalk when it's 70 degrees outside. But like here in Denver, I swear it's like impossible to find or do anything draft. Like everything's CC based.
It is. It's crazy because even back when I wasn't that big of a fan of draft, I still wanted to practice it, and I tried like getting places to do draft. I would ask Mythic Games because they actually were trying to run those Saturday events. I tried getting them to run Saturday drafts, and there just wasn't enough interest. Not a lot of people want to draft around here, which is a shame because I think it might be partly because the old sets weren't that great to draft.
Right.
And maybe people just don't really want to put in a ton of time to get comfortable with the draft, because the first few drafts you're not going to play well, especially if you're playing against people that know what they're doing. You're going to have a very bad Fang deck or something, and you're going to get stomped on and just maybe write it off. But if you like really like commit to it a little bit and understand the signals and the right way to build your deck and stuff, then you'll see all the nuances and what your past versus what deck you should choose, what archetype you should pick. And anyway, I'm going too deep into it, but there are so many little things that happen in draft that I absolutely love. And I also feel like you have a little bit less of gem luck too in draft, which is pretty nice. So
one question I do have is, like, have you heard anything or have you run into anything that's like Miragai level or the like Germinate level in draft?
That's a good question. Not that I can think of in this last set, actually. No. Which is another big thing. Because that was the problem with Part of the Misspell was there was Miragai, absolute bomb in Enigma. There was Chase the Tail, absolute bomb in Zen. I don't remember if New had a bomb in that one. Maybe just the Nick could be considered a bomb. I'm not sure.
I don't know if I don't know if I would say that there's any like bomb, like, oh, you drafted this, you automatically win. But it felt like with Enigma, like, boom, you put Miragai in, boom, 3 out the pot. Like, you just... Yeah. Doesn't even matter what the rest of the deck looks like.
I will say, I had, at U.S. Nationals last year, I had an Enigma draft that had a Miragai, and I lost to a Zen deck that had a Chase the Tail. So you don't automatically win. If you do run into the Chase the Tail Zen deck, you might still lose. But yeah, it was pretty rough. Yeah, and then like you said, there was Germinate for Florian in the Rosetta draft. That was a big bomb. There was also like Filling the Crown. That was a pretty big bomb for Florian as well. Like he actually had two pretty big bombs for the deck. And
there's like the tree for Verdance.
The tree was pretty good. I don't know if it was necessarily a bomb. It might have been, but I know that was really good.
It wasn't Germinate level, but
yeah, it wasn't as good as Germinate or Felling, but it was also pretty strong. And yeah, I don't know if there are any for this set. That's a good point. That also makes this set much more improved to the last two draft sets. One note to that actually is that I believe the Majestic Dagger, the one that automatically get marks on hit, that is in the expansion slot, which they changed for draft specifically, because before it would just be, okay, the expansion slots are just cards that don't belong to the classes in the draft set, right? But now they're starting to put class cards from the draft sets, like, you know, Assassin, Warrior, Ninja cards, in the expansion slot as well to improve the draft experience, which is a major improvement to the game.
Yeah, I think there's so many benefits to it, like for like the draft format specifically, because then like you don't get like the Dread Scythe incident with like Monarch, where like you open Dread Scythe and it's like a similar scenario as we were talking about earlier, where you're like, wow, like I just have to draft an okay deck and I have 3 out of this pod. It's like, it's very nice to have those kind of things moved into like the expansion slot. The only like downside is like I've seen like prices on those Hunter Clays. Like they're like $40 right now. And I'm like,
they're expensive. I've been waiting to hear like any kind of indication from LSS that it was accidentally short printed. I wonder if there was maybe potential where they short printed it for a regular Majestic card because it was a weapon that you don't need a ton of copies of. But then when they made it an expansion slot card, it was then further short printed, even more so.
Yeah.
So it's possible that there was like just like a little what's the word I'm looking for? Miscalculation in terms of how common it would be because of the slot that it sits inside of the pack. If that makes any sense.
I get what you're saying. Another thing I'm wondering if like with this, and we've had so many assassin sets recently too. Like that's so many, like 2 within the last year. But still,
we had a lot. I'll get
but it's like I think that assassins are like, super popular right now. So I think that part of it's probably that like with Flick Knives too and Concealed Blade, people want 3. So it's probably something like, oh, like you only need 2 in a deck, so we'll print it as like a 2-of weapon, and like the class is super popular, and then you need 3 in a deck, and all of a sudden like.
And there's other assassins that want to run it, not just the new Arachne,
Like you could just like build all these old decks to include these mark conditions now because it's so easy with the dagger, and it's like. I think it's just like a compounding effect if I had to take a guess, which I'm sure it's like short printed a little bit because it was in the expansion slot. But on top of that, I'm sure it's like, oh, everyone's jumping into Assassin because like, like you can't say the new Arachne's not cool. And like, imagine you're like a new player and you're sitting down and you're like, what? I change heroes all the time? Like, they're like, oh, like this is so cool. Like at the end of my turn, if I complete my condition, because like I feel like if I were a new player, it's like every time I end a turn with the opponent mark, I've already won that turn cycle. It doesn't even matter if like I took 20 damage and threw 3 back. I'm like, I won. They're marked. I've transformed. Like
I'm Black Widow now. It doesn't matter what happens next.
Yes, I'm winning. Like as a new player, I feel like that's like a super cool feeling because you're like, I've completed my objective. So I've got to imagine like that's part of the driving price, and also I think prices are a little high. It's within the first week of the set. We had competitive event this weekend, and we have RTNs coming up, so it's like buy.
I agree. There's a lot of demand for it because of that, and like I said before, because of the Arachne actually being a pretty well positioned deck, or a very strong deck rather. There's also a lot of people that are trying to pick it up for RTNs, and so some of those cards are going to go up naturally. I will say It's weird because it's both good and bad for the game for cards to be expensive, because if cards are expensive, people buy more product, especially if it's the newest set, right? Then you're more justified to buy the boxes or packs of the set and just try to open it yourself, right? And so there has been like that kind of negative feedback loop on previous sets of you open up a box and you're just guaranteed to not make money unless you hit like a marble or something, and that's maybe less so this time because you have all these different potential Majestics that are worth a lot of money.
Yeah, a lot of them are just like bombs, it feels like.
Yeah.
And it's like kind of cool feeling because a lot of the Majestics are all relevant. Like there's very few Majestics in recent sets that feel like this isn't a relevant Majestic. So you like open it back and you get like a Majestic, you're like, oh, that's sick, I pulled this card. Like, I'm not playing that class, but this is cool. And you open up, oh yeah, this is Majestic. And like even then, like you just go through cards and it doesn't feel like what's like a good example? Like I know in the past there's been like sets where I'm like Dusk Till Dawn, for example. Like go through Dusk Till Dawn, you're like, shh.
So many Majestics that are just
unplayable. Yeah. Oh, I got another Bolt Majestic from Dusk Till Dawn.
Yeah.
Okay, like I opened Dusk Till Dawn case, got like $30 with it. So it's like there's a benefit and a downside. I think the one thing is like cards like Shelter from a Storm. I don't know. I haven't quite settled on how I feel about that card because like I think it's a really cool card.
Yeah.
With like cool effects, but like so expensive for just coming out.
Yeah, it's that's definitely a decision made for the game to print an effectively upgraded Sink Below at Majestic rarity.
I wouldn't even say it's like upgrade. It's like a side grade, but still, it's Sink Below is a common that's worth like $2-3,
which is surprising in and of itself. But,
yeah.
Uh oh, I might be losing you. Oh, there we go. Okay, we're back.
Okay, sorry.
But yeah, no, I agree. I will say one thing that I hope that the game transitions to, and this is why I really like the EA Majestics, is to have a much larger gap between the different art different art styles or different rarities of the same card. I'm stumbling over my words here, but basically like having the EA version of a card and having the cold foil version of a card be much more expensive than the regular version of the card that maybe isn't as good looking. I think that's something that some other card games do really well that I hope that LSS leans into a little harder, so that it makes the game more accessible to people while also having these really nice looking card options for people that want to spend more money on the game. Like for example, the full art Shelter of the Storm looks absolutely gorgeous, and it doesn't matter if it's $300. If someone wants to spend extra money to make their deck look good, then that's fine. They can do that. That's their choice to do that. They don't have to spend that money to play a deck at the highest competitive level, right? And so I hope that the extended art versions of cards become more of the chase cards than the playable versions of the cards, if that makes sense.
I think they've done a really good job with like the legendaries because like back in the day, like before 2.0, before Uprising, you have legendaries that are just like super expensive because they're just so rare, but they're more common in sets, but cold foils are rare. It's like you pull a cold foil legendary and it's super like expensive, or extended art legendary, and it's super cool. And like it still doesn't feel bad to pull a legendary. And like if you don't pull the legendary you need, it's nice because it's like, oh, like I don't have this legendary. Like if I'm not gonna buy it like week one or within the first month, like I could probably get like a rainbow foil with then like $30 to $50 depending on how competitive it is. When it used to be like, oh, if it's semi-competitive, it's like $150 for a legendary.
Yeah, and it is definitely improving there because like if you look at some of the older legendaries that are, if you look at the really old ones that are cold foil, they're way more expensive because of the rarity of them. But if you look at like the past couple years of legendaries, if the cold foil version of the card is just cold foil, no extended art, no different like full art or opaque, semi-opaque text box, the price is like $5-10 more often, right? But that's what I'm saying is that with the new way that they're doing the rarities and the art, the extended art versions of it, it's much better looking and it's a much larger price gap, which makes it much more affordable for people just to get into the game,
right?
Which I like.
I just think there needs to be a few reprints
Just a little
and
bit,
things
yeah.
will...
Speaking of reprints, what do you think about the new CNC?
The art's beautiful. Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
gorgeous card.
Like, Federico Musetti is my favorite artist in Flesh and Blood. Like, the first Majestic I ever pulled was Mangle. And, like, I didn't really care about the art of the game. Like, I'm like, oh, this feels super cool when I was, like, first getting into the game. I'm like, this feels cool. This is awesome. Like, this game's so cool on this aspect. But I didn't, like, care about the art as much. But then, like, I remember sitting down at, like, Mythic, opening one of my first boxes. And there was, like, a Crucible War box. And I'm like, okay, let's open this up. And I open it up, and I pull a Mango. I'm like, oh my God. Like, this art is fantastic. And, like, that card alone, I was like, well, what's the art like on all the other cards? If, like, this card's so good. And, like, now, like, when I see a card, I'm like, okay, there's the effects. Like, that's a cool card, but, like, what's the art
What's
like?
the art?
And, yeah. So it's like, it's cool because, like, the game has introduced me to art in a way, as well as, like some artists, like, within the game, like Federico Musetti, like, Iswardi, chef's kiss.
Yeah,
Like,
so many good artists in this game right now, right? Like, we are definitely fortunate to have a company that really cares about the art on these cards, and it shows. It really does show. And I feel like it's even just gotten better over the sets too. Like, I will say, like, people would say that the art was their favorite part of the game when I first started, and I was like, yeah, the art's cool and all, but, like, I never really looked at the art that much when I played card games. But as time has gone on, and I've, like, taken a closer look at some of these cards, I go, wow, I never looked at this card, like, in that much detail before. But the further I look into it, the more I really appreciate it, and it just looks gorgeous. Like, so much of the hunted art, absolutely gorgeous. I really like a lot of it. Yeah. And I definitely didn't start off appreciating the art as much as I should have, but over time I've been definitely falling into the or joining the train of, okay, the art is absolutely gorgeous, and it's one of the best things about the game.
It's crazy because, like, it's hard to find a card I can't love now for the art. Like, every artist just does such a good job.
Yeah.
And, like, I feel like every set, the art is, like, another level of good. And it's, like, crazy to me. I'm like, it doesn't get better than this. This art's, like, fantastic. It's the best it's going to get. Yeah. And then we'll come out to the next set, and I'm like, how is it better?
Did you see the full art of, is it Lightning Greaves? The Aurora boots?
Yeah,
you saw that?
So
like, that
pretty.
Was really nice.
Oh, that's so cool.
I want that hero now. Like, I saw someone else asking for that hero. I need that hero now. I need the new Lightning hero that is that character. And I need that artist to make all the art for every card in the deck.
Yeah, because I think that's Iswardi too.
Oh, was it? Oh, shoot.
Yeah, I think I
know the name.
I think I like. Yeah, it's like, I think I saw his post where he's like, oh, like, I needed to make the boots, but I obviously, or not obviously, but he's like, I made it extended so people could, like, so I could sell it as, like, extra arts, as, like, people wanting, like, pictures and, like,
right,
paintings on the wall, which I'm like, that's, like, one, super smart. I'm sure a lot of other artists do that in a similar fashion. But I'm like, it's just so beautiful to, like, see these extended arts. Like, have you seen the blood splatter chess piece, the assassin ninja?
I haven't.
So the, like, card art is, like, so you have, like, this is the card art, and then the picture's like this. It's like a full picture, and, like, if the card art shows you, like, 10% of the picture or something crazy, and it's like, it's another super beautiful art.
That's awesome.
One card I want to actually, like, point out from, like, a design perspective and an art perspective in a way is the, like, Lalo, that defense reaction, the yellow defense reaction that everyone like, that they spoiled early. I think it's just so cool because, like, depending on if you're marked or your opponent's marked, like, you are a different character in that picture. If the opponent's marked, your opponent's the one hiding underneath the bridge. If you're marked, you're the one hiding underneath the bridge. And, like, vice versa with the people, like, searching on the bridge. I just thought that was, like, super cool. Like, I haven't heard anyone talk about it, but it's, like,
I never put that together. I've played that card a lot of times in drafts, and I've never put together that's, like, the perspective of the art. That's really cool. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Now
So,
every
like,
time I see that card, I'm gonna think of that, and I like that's awesome.
like, I noticed that. I'm like, that's like a super cool prospect of like of the art and the design. Like I think that's just like through and throughout, like from the base of design through the art direction to the artist itself, just a masterpiece of a card, which is like interesting for a common that no one plays.
Right. Well, I mean, you played in draft, and that's one of the things I like about draft too. You play with a lot of these cards that you will never touch in classic constructed, because they just aren't at the power level of other cards. But in draft, they're pretty good cards.
Right.
Yeah. Unless you want to talk any more about the art, we could talk about Memphis.
Yeah, you can totally move on to that.
So what did you think? How much of it did you end up watching?
So I watched the finals of a lot of matches. I didn't watch the finals of the Battle Hardened, but I did go through and like the finals of the Calling, and like I've watched sporadically throughout. Like I've probably watched like 15 games over the weekend, but I've watched quite a few games. But there's like I think I watched most of the first day at least with the Calling, and then like the finals of the Calling.
Sorry, what was that?
Oh, sorry, it cut out again.
Oh, did it? Oh, my bad.
I said did it cut out?
I think it is on my end. My computer is complaining about my GPU load.
Oh no!
So I think it actually is on my end. So what I'm gonna do, it's gonna look a little odd for the viewers, but I am going to remove the blur background so that my GPU can handle it a little better, because it
doesn't like freak out.
Yeah. Which I mean, I don't need it, so it's fine. If someone skips through the video and they see that it's no longer blurred, it won't be a big deal.
If anyone needs a blurred background, it's me.
No,
crap everywhere.
It actually does. Yeah. It really doesn't look bad back there. You can't see anything. You can see. The only thing I can see is like one squirt bottle on the counter, and that's it. That's the only thing I can really point out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But anyways, like the Calling, like I didn't watch a lot of it, but the games I did watch, like were so good. Like a lot of them were so good. Like there was the Reinhardt game with Eugene. Like that was such a fun game. Like
oh yeah,
it was so cool to like that's a Reinhardt. Like how is he here? How is he like? I think was he 4-0 at that point?
If 4-0 or 5-0, yeah.
Something crazy like that.
Well.
And it was just such a wacky list. And like he had, I forget what the card is, but it was the Renegade? 1-for-6.
Yeah.
Freewheeling Renegade. And I saw that and I'm like, he's a genius. This is so cool. Like, and then like, I see how it fits because like the cost structure of Brew is like you go like if you have a blue card, all of a sudden you can pitch a 2 go again into a 1. And it was so interesting to watch him play too because like at one point he had. I can't remember if he had to discard for some reason or if he had to block one way or another. I can't remember exactly what it was. Oh, I think it was maybe a Codex where he had 2 cards in hand. He had like a Majestic and Freewheeling Renegade, and he had to discard to put a card in Arsenal or something like that. And he chose to keep the Freewheeling Renegade.
Huh.
And then he threw...
Wait, so why is that? So he was getting Codex. He had 2 cards in hand with Codex.
Maybe he had. I think he had 3 because he had a blue and then 2 power cards.
I see.
But he kept from what I could tell, he kept the Freewheeling Renegade. Like he got rid of the Majestic, kept the Freewheeling Renegade, so he could Arsenal it, and then on a power turn later, I think he did like a Blood Rush Bellow turn. He did Blood Rush Bellow, and he had 1 pitch remaining at the end because that's how his deck is structured. And then he Freewheeling Renegade, which if he had the other Majestic, he couldn't have used it, and it would have just been a dead Arsenal on his Blood Rush turn. And it's like 1-for-6 is better for just a dead Arsenal card.
Well, it's also cool because like with the way Reinhardt works, sometimes that card will just be a 1-for-6 instead of what is a 1-for-4, 1-for-3 with its effect. If
I think it gets -2 if it's blocked with an action card.
Yeah, something like that. But so it works really well in Reinhardt for that reason. Then that's one of the big things about being a specialist in this game that I really like is that you'll see the different ways that heroes play it. Like you'll find out that maybe this common card from a random set is actually really good in this one specific hero for this reason.
Right.
Like, you would never think of playing this card otherwise, but if you're versed enough in a specific hero, you'll find these opportunities to really maximize the potential of them, which is really cool.
Right.
One of the things I love about the game.
yeah, it's really cool to be able to be like a specialist.
Mm-hmm.
And like my first like foray into like kind of competitive Flesh and Blood. I wouldn't say I'm like super competitive at all. I want to try and be better this year, but
Yeah.
my first like foray into like competitive Flesh and Blood was me going to a pro quest with Bravo. And this was before Lexi. Like, this wasn't his peak good. I think this was like right after Starvo left.
Oh yeah.
So I think it was right after Starvo left. Chain and Prism might have been gone, but it was like that meta when it was obviously I think Oldhim was one of the top decks.
Yeah.
But I like brought him and I brought Bravo, not Starvo, like Showtime. I brought him all the way to at least top 8. And like if I didn't make a mistake in the very last turn, I could have made it into the top 4.
Yeah.
Of that event, and it's just because I specialized in Bravo so much. Like I would go to armories all over, and I'm like, oh, I'm just playing Bravo. I love Bravo. Da 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 da. And it was like super cool to like go to that event and like be a specialist and know and understand every other person's deck. And the benefit of being a specialist on a hero no one else is playing is no one knows how to play into you.
Exactly. Yep.
So like Oldhim was like such an interesting matchup because Noah Oldhim knew how to play into me. So I think in like that meta, my win rate in Oldhim was like 95%.
Dang.
It was crazy. Like I played 3 Oldhims in that pro quest, and I won every single match because I'm like, oh, you just play for like dominate early, pitch stack second cycle. So they're out of the defense reactions, and their only way to get around dominate late game was the Earth react. But they didn't even run that many Earth cards, so like they're like, okay, block, defend, and then late game, all of a sudden they're just eating all the damage you chunk at them. Anyway, so I could rant about that match.
No. I mean, that's one of the things I really like about the game too is that like when you become a specialist, you get to perfect your matchup knowledge, and you get to perfect even other skills too. So like that's the one thing I've noticed about you over I think even like early time, even years ago, I think you were already really good at pitch stacking because of your experience with Bravo. And whenever you play a hero for so long that a lot of your turns become second nature, then you can start looking into, okay, what other avenues can I explore with this? Like, how does this hero play? What if I do this into this hero instead of this? What if I try this strategy? What if I pitch stack in this certain way? And like, you get to explore all these different avenues that if you're just playing a hero for maybe the first 20, 50, 100, even 100 games, you might not even see because you're too busy figuring out how to sequence your own turn. And so being a hero specialist just allows you to get so much more depth in the game. And it's so rewarding in this game to be a specialist that you can win like these local events like Pro Quests and RTNs and stuff with pretty much any hero in the game. Because if you know your deck much better than anybody else in that tournament, then you have a significant edge. Even if you're Arachne Solitary Confinement. Or no, whatever the previous Arachne was, the contract Arachne.
Arachne Huntsman.
Is it Huntsman? That's what it is. Even if you're Arachne Huntsman or some other F tier hero, as people would call him, you can win these events. Like you can. Just like the power of being a hero specialist is huge, and that's one of the things I really liked about this game. And another reason why I miss Dromai.
Yeah. Because I remember, like, you were playing Dromai even before she was, like, good. Mm-hmm. But, like, it was still so much fun to, like, match up into you at the tables because it's, like, you're so good at Dromai. Even, like, before she was meta, when, like, everyone's, like, is Dromai... I don't know, like, I'm sure you remember, but I don't know how many people, like, listening remember when people were, like, is Dromai a good hero? Like,
right.
Da-da-da-da. And she was, like...
This is, like, pre-Mara, by the way. Like, pre-Redline Dromai. Yeah.
It's like she was a bad kind of like I wouldn't say bad, but she was like a mediocre hero, like B tier at best. Mm-hmm. For like maybe it was only a few months, but even then it was like super interesting. And you'd bring it to the armories, and I'd be like, okay, sit down. Here's the tough matchup. Let's get this going.
Yep. Yeah, here's this B tier hero that I'm gonna struggle into, because my opponent's a specialist. Yeah, that was a really cool part that I brought about too, and it was mostly stubbornness. I was like, okay, I'm gonna figure this thing out because eventually she's gonna be good, and then I'm gonna be a specialist in her when she is good, and it paid off. Like then we got the Empress Dromai that was really strong. It was a whole different avenue to take Dromai, and I ended up working really well and leveled her up a bit. And then we got Tome of Imperial Flame, which made Dromai busted. And then since I already knew how to play Dromai, I was already in the driver's seat when it came to piloting the deck for all of these events. So I really miss being a specialist, and that's why I've been trying to find a hero that like really fills that niche, so I can just play that hero and only that hero. And it might be Dash.io. Dash.io's been feeling really, really good. But anyway, the whole hero specialist thing in this game I think is so nice, and it's cool that there's not significant power creep or rotation to force you out of a hero. The living legend system, you'll pretty much know ahead of time if you're gonna lose your main hero, right?
You have like time to prepare in a way.
Exactly. There are some cases where like the hero you're playing gets a lot worse because of the meta, right? But outside of some situations like that, like there really isn't a lot of, okay, I there's no point in me playing this hero and getting better at it, right?
Right.
Yeah, you will get rewarded for being specializing. So.
Yeah, and that's like, I think there's always like, if you're willing to step into a game and like learn, there's always something to learn. Even if it's something as simple as like, I sideboarded wrong to, man, like just thinking about it, if I had this one card in this one specific matchup this one time, and then you try it out and you realize, oh, this whatever. Like, I think if you could just like take any information, like it's benefiting you.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Anyways, we should.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say we should probably get back to the call.
Oh yeah. So this past weekend we had Calling Memphis. It was the first dual calling event. We had a CC calling and we had a sealed calling, and there was a CC battle hardened. So there were 3 major events in one weekend, and unfortunately neither of us were able to make it there. But I wish I did, because that looked like a really fun event through all the streams. And just for some recap for anybody watching that has not seen it, these are spoilers, by the way, so if you don't want these spoilers, skip ahead a little bit. The CC calling was won by Brody Spurlock on Syndra. The sealed calling was won by Michael Hamilton on Syndra. And actually, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, the sealed calling had a draft top 8. And so it was sealed Swiss rounds, and then the players that made top 8 drafted. And so it was a draft for that portion of it.
I think I heard that too.
Yeah. And I also just want to give a quick shout out to the second place player in that sealed calling, Austin Reddington. He used to play Legend of Runeterra. Just want to give a quick shout out to him. And then in the Battle Hardened, the winner was Kevin Murphy on Prism. Now, Prism winning a Battle Hardened is was that on your bingo card for that weekend?
No, it was not even in my like top 10 heroes.
Yeah, I think it was really smart for someone to bring Prism in a meta that has kind of forgotten what the word popper means. I think
I'll
they
never
got a lot
forget
of
my
edge out
poppers,
that.
but
Well, yeah, sorry, the Jarl enjoyers excluded. But yeah,
no, it's
go ahead.
It's so sorry. It's so interesting to see that Prism got so far, and it's just into those aggro decks. It's aggressive.
Yeah, I mean, because I think the biggest problem with her now, because before the popper decks, depending on what it was, brutes were still really tough for Prism, but the Guardians, not as much of a problem when you had was it Tome of Divinity, I believe is the book that she had.
Yeah, because you could like search the combo.
Yep. Yeah, you could then set up and combo off, and then ping them down with your not with your auras, but basically you set up all these auras, and you would eventually develop a board state that was unwinnable for them. But you needed that book to really get there and set up the ALS loop, or to set up a big turn that they couldn't really come back from. But without the book, your Guardian matchup is pretty bad. Turns out.
I think the Brute even worse because they have scat skins.
Yeah.
And I heard that Eugene, the Reinhardt player, had Sand Sketch plan just for Prism.
Yeah, there's some really funny ways to get out of the ALS loop with extra action points in almost every hero. Some heroes will run time skippers, but regardless, I thought it was really cool to see Prism take that final game down, and for Prism cards to start spiking right after.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say it is interesting because I like that felt like a more of a specialist moment again.
Mm-hmm.
And there were some like really good games at the beginning of like that Battle Hardened 2, and it was Kevin versus I think it was shoot, I'm forgetting, but on Arachne.
Oh, playing against
Like
Arachne?
one of the
Was it Brian?
yes.
Okay, Brian against Brian
Like
Lenz.
Marinette.
Yeah.
Yes, early in the like calling, and I was watching that game, and it was so like meticulous, and it felt like every play was like super clean, super thought out. Like, like sequencing. It felt like one of those like perfect get like not that I don't think there's like ever like a perfect game in a way, but like it felt like one of those perfect games where you're like sitting there and like, man, like I don't know if there was a better decision in that. I'm like, oh, this here, this, and then like everything was just super clean in their play and how it turned.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. And you have to be very meticulous when you play Prism because one small misstep and you're losing the game, which is with a lot of heroes. But yeah, it was really cool seeing those games and seeing him play so well around a hero that had just come out too. That was really impressive. So, also want to give a quick shout out to the casters. I thought the casters were really good this weekend. It was Samuel Byrne, Ellie Bird, and Nathan Crawford. I think Nathan was only the final day that he casted, if I remember correctly.
I think it was the Battle Harden because I'm pretty sure he was a part of the CC calling.
Oh, that's probably why then. Yeah.
I think he said he got like 19.
Oh wow.
I don't know. He was in like the top 30 at least.
Dang.
So
You know what he was playing.
A good showing. I mean, probably a warrior.
Probably. That or well, he plays a lot of stuff, but.
Oh wait, no, wait. Sorry, I'm thinking.
Are you thinking of Josh
He
Lau?
was on Runeblade. Yeah, I'm thinking Josh Lau.
It might have been Viserai then. I think he's played Warrior before too. I think he's been trying out Fang, but yeah. Regardless, I thought that was a really cool event. It was surprising to see. Oh, I guess maybe it wasn't that surprising to see just how many of the hunted heroes were making top 8. No Fangs, unfortunately, but there were a lot of Syndras and Arachnes that were doing pretty well, and I thought that was really cool to see that there were at least 2 of the 3 heroes of the latest set are very playable and very good. That was nice.
I was surprised to see how well Syndra did.
Yeah.
Like on a mono red list. I don't know if you saw like Brody's list.
I did.
But
Yeah.
It was 3 Warmongers diplomacies were the only blues.
2 or 3 yellows in the form of Brand Cinderclaw.
Yeah, I think it was 2 at Brand,
Yeah.
which everything else was red. And I'm like, that's an insane list.
Yeah.
But it worked, and it was like
no, it makes
crazy.
sense. It makes a lot of sense now, like looking back on it. And that's one of the things is that I think a lot of people wrote off Syndra because they were playing these heavier blue lists and trying to swing their daggers more often. When it turns out all you need to do is throw a ton of 0-for-4s and turn your daggers into a free damage and a mask continuation, and you're in a good spot. But no, that was really cool to see the evolution of Syndra. And Arachne is funny because I looked at Brian's list, and when like the first glance at it, you're like, oh, this looks okay, like it's fine. But then you watch it in action, and you realize that they get to flick a dagger at you when they have Saber Bloodshed on and draw a card and remark, or they get to play Kiss of Death and flick the Kiss of Death to not only deal 1 damage, but to draw off Saber Bloodshed, or they can Tarantula Toxin the Kiss of Death to get both effects to give it, was it +3 and -3 on a defending card. There's so many little things in that deck that when you look at it at first at a glance on February, then you're like, oh, this just looks like an assassin deck, right? But then you see it in action, and it is just disgusting how many little tricks it has up its sleeves and all the different things you can do, and like the helmet plays too, where you get to turn into a specific hero. There's a lot of decisions around that. I thought it was really cool to see that in action.
Right, and for like a hero based so much off of like randomness, there's so much that's like planned and so much that's like, it doesn't feel very random for a random hero.
Right. Yeah. That's one of the things, that just in general of the game is there's a lot of randomness that isn't all that random, except for scab skins maybe.
Yeah.
Said from experience. That I saw your reaction there.
Too many ones rolled.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool to watch, and like there's so many like niche interactions. Like you were talking about Kiss of Death. I think that's just like that was one of the coolest cards when I saw that spoiled. Because like, oh, it's a 0 for 3 block 3 stealth card on hit, lose 1 life. Okay, that's like I'd rather run the blood rot one. Okay, attack action dagger. Wait, what? And it just like it feels like it unlocks so much of the game just by saying dagger. Because all of a sudden, like, weapon buffs go onto it, dagger buffs go onto it, you can flick it. It just unlocked a new part of this game, and it was crazy to me.
So have you listened to the latest? Is it the latest Flesh and Plot pod? Maybe it's the one before where they bring the rules guy from LSS on.
Yeah, I have.
I thought that was really cool. How first of all, hearing how it works behind the scenes of the card designers, the game designers, will give him a card on his desk, and then he has to tell them, okay, it has to change this way or that way to fit within the rules of the game. And then with Kiss of Death, I guess they didn't have to change it at all. They thought they were going to have to change it, but then they're just like, oh, this actually kind of just works. I thought that was really cool.
And like Take Up the Mantle, I think he said, was like no changes too.
Yeah,
for such a crazy card.
Yeah,
which is like just a crazy thought. But it's interesting hearing like all these point of views from like LSS, like when they jump on all these podcasts. It's so cool.
Yeah, it's really cool how in tune with the community they are. But I just thought that with Kiss of Death, I thought that was a cool little thing I heard from the other podcast.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah, is there anything else you want to talk about when it comes to the Hunted or Memphis?
I feel like a lot of things are gonna have to wait for it to like develop, because obviously this was the first calling, and I feel like running a very red list is dangerous, and it's very juicy as a Jarl player.
Yep.
So like, I counter in some.
So what you're saying is that everyone should just be running all red lists. There's no heroes that can punish that, right?
Yeah, no. It's like there's not a shield that gives you a frostbite when you block with it. Like, don't worry about it.
Frostbite does the same.
It's like, and this must be what like Kano players feel like when it's like, oh, don't worry.
Yep.
Arcane damage doesn't exist. I'm like, frostbites don't exist. Run all red. Streamline your deck.
That is something I forgot to mention, was that Kano did actually very well at Memphis too. I assume because of all the red line lists going around and all the aggro that they can kind of just take advantage of with people not being able to AB. But I thought that was
and
really
like I feel it's like the Kano cycle. Have you ever seen that meme?
I saw that, yeah.
Like at that point where it's like no one's running AB, Kano's good.
Yeah.
So like we're gonna hit the next cycle here after RTN season where everyone's running like 3 AB and way too many blues and Kano's bad, and then
yep, we're gonna do the whole cycle again. Don't worry, we're just in stage 2 of 10 or whatever it is.
It's.
But yeah, no, I don't have a lot else.
Cool.
I know you're gonna be playing Jarl in the upcoming meta. I haven't decided what I'm gonna play yet. There's a lot of assassin to be playing -IO, so I'm not sure. I haven't decided what I'm gonna pick yet. I wish I just had a hero that was like, oh yeah, I'm picking this. It doesn't matter if there's a lot of this, that, or the other. I'm gonna play it no matter what. But I don't really have that. One of these.
I mean,
days.
with the new expansion slot card, you might be better into new. Just you can't pitch your chi if you name it.
I do want to talk about that. I do want to talk about Null Time Zone. What a disgusting card that is. I love it. I love it so much. It just, not only is -IO already like a bit of a casino deck in a sense of like, oh, that's cards on top of my deck. I get a boom grenade off the top, get an action point, draw Cerebellum, also deal 4 damage for 1 resource. Like, not only do you have that, but your opponent can like clearly indicate they're gonna play a card from their hand or pitch a card or whatever. Like, I haven't thought through all the possibilities yet, but there is so much room for playing with Null Time Zone on the top of your deck when it's your opponent's turn as -IO. And I think it is so cool. I felt bad for Beth yesterday because my coolest play so far with Null Time Zone happened where I Pulse Wave Harpoon for X equals 2. She showed me 2 Warmonger's Diplomacies, which I couldn't force on the chain. And I had an old time zone in hand that I was going to pitch for another attack. And then I decided instead to play it, naming Warmonger's Diplomacy so that she couldn't play or pitch Warmongers and had 2 dead cards in her hand. It had to end up pitching CNC to throw a Take the Tempo from Arsenal and IP-1ing herself after the fact, because then she got to Arsenal Warmongers and Holden Warmongers. But still, like, there's so many cool lines you can take with that card that just made me like fall in love with the Dash.io deck all over again, because there's a lot. The possibilities are endless when it comes to naming cards with Null Time Zone.
Oh, definitely.
But like he mentioned, there was actually, I don't know their name, but there was a Dash.io player on stream at Memphis that played against Zen that named Inner Chi as the Null Time Zone target. So whenever you activate Zen, you are pitching that Inner Chi. It isn't just putting it there, it is pitching it. So you cannot activate Zen's ability while Null Time Zone is on the field with Inner Chi named. And with the amount of I'm blanking on the card, the 0-for-4 that puts a Steam counter on a card with Crank. The new one.
Fast and Furious.
Yes, Fast and Furious. With Fast and Furious and the fact that you can run 3 of these Null Time Zones, your Zen opponent might just never get to pitch a Chi. They might just never get to activate their hero ability, which turns off Traverse, and it's just... Anyway, long story short, what was a bad matchup, I think, is actually favored for Dio now because of that one card.
Is after being bullied by Mistfail for so long, when I sat down, I'm like, oh, it's Dash.io versus Zen, whatever, and then I saw the Null Time Zone go down. I'm like, oh, I didn't know anyone saw, like, when I saw that card, I thought it was like any other, like, Mechanologist, like, expansion slot over the last, like, year. Haven't been great. So I was like,
same reaction.
oh,
like,
someone's...
Oh, it's okay.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, it's, I forget what it is, but it's the yellow card with Go Again, name a card you can't, it's the generic version. Change the Eminence. I was like, oh, it's a mech change the Eminence. Oh, cool. It doesn't even block. How is this good? And then, like, it's like, at least it's a blue. But, like, I was sitting down, I saw him play. I'm like, oh, interesting. What are they going to do? What are they going to name? Is this card even good? And then I saw him write Inner Chi. I'm like, oh, my goodness. This is
that
insane.
moment.
Yeah, like, it all just clicked. And I'm like, this is awesome. I'm like, not that I, like, root too hard for one person when I'm watching a game. I just want a good game, but I was just like, this is crazy. Like, I want, like, Dash.io to smash this thing.
Right? It was so cool. That was the moment where I was like, okay, this card is disgusting. But yeah, I thought that was one last thing I wanted to talk about with the Hunted. At least the last thing I can think of right now. But that card, very cool card.
You go on a little small rant about the expansion slot Guardian cards.
Oh, you want to? Yeah, go for it.
Just a small rant. The expansion slot Guardian cards, I saw them, and I was like, we got Majestic Boots, this is insane. And then I read the boots, I'm like, they're Blade Break 1 boots. And then, like, the other card, I feel like they're just, like, trap cards.
So
they're not Blade Break 1, but they have pretty much Spellblade 1. I think they prevent the next... They're not Spellblade. You use them in Arcane, but, like, it's like prevent the next 1 damage you would take. If you have a Seismic Surge, or you control a Seismic Surge, prevent the next 2 damage you would take.
To pull it up right now really quick.
Yeah.
Forgetting what that is. No, that's the Mechanologist arms. The Tremor Shield Sabatons?
Sabatons or something, yeah.
That's right. Okay. Yeah, it's funny how they printed 2 Guardian boosts in the expansion in the same set. Isn't that kind of wild?
Yeah. I was so yeah. Speaking on that, like that's why I was like, oh, okay, this set is like, okay, the Guardian cards or whatever. And like the Aura card's cool. Sure, it's really cool. I think it's only gonna be good once Valda comes out.
Well,
but
I don't know if you saw Derek talking about how it's good into Viserai to get rid of their Malefic Incantations. So maybe not as good into the Illusionist auras, but it is a nice flexible card in that sense. There are a lot more auras in the game that it sounded like he had pretty good success with it there. But yeah, overall,
I guess that's fair.
It seemed fine. It seemed like an okay power level for it. So
Yeah, no, I think it's acceptable, and I think with like the Guardian pack coming out, it's probably gonna be a lot better. It was just like in the moment when I was reading that, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna play this into Enigma and make my like 5% matchup a 10% matchup, but take out some like sideboard cards that like all my matchups, like all my other matchups go down by 10%.
Yep.
I'm like, this feels like a trap, and like boots are normally where you wanted to run null rune equipment anyways before this set. So I was just like, so I'm gonna take my null rune away to prevent one arcane damage because no one,
Yeah.
like, I love my tectonic plating, but like knowing the general community and the tunic like thing, it's prevent one arcane, block one. So
Right. Yeah. It's basically spell void, right? So
yeah. I think that like if we get anything, like if we get a helmet in the Guardian Master Pack that has like Arcane Barrier, then I think they're really usable boots.
okay.
But
Yeah.
until just because you need to be able to have some way to pitch into like rune chance and this.
Right.
Anyways, smaller rant aside.
No. That's good. That's good.
We did get Guardian boots in this set too, so that was great.
That is funny that we got Guardian boots, but then they were quickly worse than the other generic boots that came out.
Yeah.
But yeah, just to make sure this podcast isn't too long, we probably should move forward.
Oh, that's fair. That's fair.
So, what are your thoughts on the upcoming RTN meta? Are you playing the RTNs?
I need to sign up for them. I honestly didn't realize they were so close.
Yeah,
I want to
this
play
weekend.
the RTN.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did not realize that until you said that earlier, and I'm like, I need to get that. I don't have plans, but I need to get on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, obviously going to be taking y'all.
Obviously. Of course.
Yeah,
I'm planning to play. I definitely am going to play that draft RTN. And then depending on whether or not I get my invite, then I'll go to the CC events. I don't want to like get an invite there and then take it away and invite from another one. So if you see me at another RTN event later on, you'll know that I didn't top 4 the draft one. But
well, I'm rooting for you.
Yeah. Hopefully, because if I don't top 4 the draft RTN, then I'll probably be playing Zen on Sunday. And then I got some stuff to make Hatchet Story. I feel like Hatchet Story is pretty good, so I might play that as well. I don't know, maybe Dash.io, but Assassin is pretty bad for Dash.io, so I don't know if I really want to play her.
Right.
So that's the problem is I want to get my invite on Saturday so that I just don't have to worry about the CC for the rest of the time. But yeah, that's my plans anyway. So with that said, what is one goal each of us have for the year? And let's start with you, Jacob. What's one goal that you have for the year, and what do you want to do to work towards that?
I guess one thing that I like really wanted this year, other than to like have an outlet like the podcast, and like hopefully like a goal is to like keep uploading to this and like maybe add some extra content if it's ever wanted or warranted or this, that, or another thing. Like I want to be like consistent on this. But like another goal I have within like Flesh and Blood, like specifically the game itself, is like I want to be more competitive in a way, like step in and I like, even if it is with Jarl, like be that like Jarl specialist, step in and be able to like perform and do what I did with Bravo so many years ago when he was bad and just be like, I don't care he's a bad deck. Like you don't know how to play in him the way I know how to play into you. I have a level of advantage you don't have. So I want to try and aim for an invite. I've never had an invite to like Nationals or ProQuest or anything. I've been like this close so many times. And I've gotten 8th on so many like occasions. And it's 4th that gets the invite. But I've never like gotten an invite. So like I want to aim for that. And then if that's like sitting down, playing more Jarl games, maybe try and do like more online practice to be able to like achieve these goals. But like I don't think I'm bound by it.
Yeah,
it's like
it's a goal, but it's not like a requirement. Yeah.
Yes. As long as I feel like I've played at a level I find acceptable, I think this year's is a success.
Yep. There's someone in one of the games I used to play that had a quote that said, oh dang, I had it and then I lost it as I was saying that, but it was like something along the lines of play a beautiful game. Don't care about the results. Play a beautiful game. It doesn't matter if you win or lose if you know that you played well. And I thought that was really nice. It was like, you can remove yourself from the result of the game and just say, did I play well or not? Yes or no? Am I happy with that result? And then go from there. But yeah, so another thing. Anyway, sorry, I'm going on a rant. But did you have anything else you wanted to say about your goals before?
No, you're good. That's pretty much exactly what I want. Is I want to be able to sit down and play this deck that I love, and it's like, I posted on Blue Sky the other day, but it's like this, like, with Jarl specifically coming out, I've like fallen in love with this game for a second time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, if I can just sit down, play Jarl, and think I've played to my best ability, like, oh man, like this happened, or like maybe not like the best, but like just learn from it and be like, oh, this happened. I played a really good, fun game, but like this turn specifically, if I'm proving that, I'm winning the next game. If I can do that and like feel confident and proud of my play, then I'll be really happy with this year.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. I like that.
What about you? What kind of goals do you have?
Yeah. For myself, I'll do the easy one and say to continue with this podcast and be consistent and make something that I'm proud of for the both of us. But then my other one would be to find the hero that I can main, because I have been pretty much jumping around hero to hero, switching sometimes every month, sometimes every week. I'll switch heroes, just like trying to find something that really clicks for me, really feels good at the moment. But I want to lean back, probably on Dash.io, but find that hero that I can lean back on, consistently play, really get to understand and know all the matchups for, and make that my new main hero. I think that's my goal for the year. Find my new Dromai effectively.
Well, if you need a Jarl list and you think he looks fun, I've got one in the background.
Yeah,
I know you're a Guardian player.
I'll take a look. Yeah.
You're like gonna study it. Like, okay, this is how I beat this list. But no, I think that's a very admirable goal.
Yeah. I'm hoping to achieve that one. We'll see if it happens. It's been a while, but yeah. So then, with that, we have a viewer question for those of you watching or listening, however you're taking in the podcast. What CC hero do you think will reign supreme in the hunted meta, and why do you think that? There are a lot of contenders, honestly. And you could say both before or after Zen. You can just assume after Zen, because Zen's almost certainly going to LL this weekend. So you can say maybe a post-Zen CC hero that you think is going to be the top deck, and let us know why. Also, if you can comment that on our YouTube, or just send us a DM, or however you want to get that to us. I don't actually know other ways you could get that to us outside of those two. But that's how you can submit that answer, and we'll pick some of those and we'll read them off on the next podcast. So before we sign off, please feel free to like, share, let other people know that this podcast exists if you liked it. Let us know what we can do better. Maybe if there's some audio issues that we didn't catch, or if there's some topics that you wish we covered more in detail, or some topics you wish we covered less in detail. And then huge shout out, by the way, to Beth, who made our logo. By the time this podcast comes out, we'll have her finalized logo in there instead of the draft. Whenever this does come out, I'm not sure if this will come out tonight or tomorrow, but we'll figure that out after the fact.
I know she said she thinks it will be done today, so I'm assuming that hopefully within the next hour we'll get the final version.
All right, well, no pressure otherwise. It's fine if we post it tomorrow instead. And yeah, and with that, I am Cody.
And I'm Jacob.
And
thanks for listening.
Yeah, and this was Breaking the Chain Podcast. See you next time.